You can apologize right now, or you can get out of my house, my brother snapped, loud enough to silence the entire Christmas table. My mother crossed her arms. You've always been jealous of him. Don't ruin tonight. I stared at the turkey I helped cook, my plate untouched. Jealous? Of what? He leaned closer. Say you're sorry for trying to destroy me. Then came a hard knock at the door, and two police officers stepped inside. My name is Alyssa Morgan, and I'm 35 years old. I've always been the quiet one in my family. The dependable one. The one who shows up early and stays late, but never gets mentioned in the toast. I work as a freelance digital marketing consultant. What that means, in simple terms, is I help small local businesses clean up their online reputations and manage their reviews. I track down fake accounts, flag suspicious activity, and make sure honest businesses don't get buried by dishonest tactics. It's not flashy work. Nobody claps when you do it right. But it's honest, and I'm good at it. Growing up, my older brother Tyler was the one they always praised. He was loud, confident, and everyone called him successful before he'd even really done anything to earn the word. He took over our dad's small contracting company right out of high school and turned it into something bigger. New trucks in the driveway. A house twice the size of mine. A handshake that made people feel like they were in the presence of someone important. And me? I was the one behind a screen. My parents never called me less, not directly. But they didn't have to. The way they talked about Tyler told the whole story. If Tyler made a mistake at work, it was because he was under pressure. If I made a mistake, it was because I wasn't serious enough. If Tyler yelled at someone, he was passionate. If I raised my voice even once, I was being dramatic. I didn't drive a brand new truck. I didn't own a big house with a wraparound porch. But I had something they constantly underestimated. Patience. Focus. And the ability to follow digital trails that most people don't even know exist. For years, I let the joke slide. Alyssa and her little laptop business. Still playing on the computer? When are you going to get a real job? I'd smile. I'd swallow it. I'd help myself to another dinner roll and change the subject. I never fought back because I thought proving myself through results would eventually be enough. What they didn't realize, what none of them ever bothered to ask about, was that over the past 5 years I had quietly built a specialty that most people didn't even know was a real profession. I uncovered fake review networks and online fraud. I mapped digital fingerprints. I connected fake accounts to real people. I helped businesses and attorneys build cases against people who manipulated online platforms for profit. The Christmas dinner where I was told to apologize? That night wasn't about jealousy. It wasn't about sibling rivalry. It was about exposure. And what came next changed everything. If you've ever been the quiet one in your family, the one they underestimate because your work doesn't look impressive on the outside, this story is for you. I know what it feels like to be dismissed just because your success doesn't make noise. I know what it's like to sit at a table surrounded by people who love you but don't respect what you do. If that sounds familiar, hit that subscribe button right now. Tell me in the comments, have you ever been judged for choosing a different path? Have you ever been made to feel small because your achievements didn't come with a trophy or a title? And if you believe quiet strength deserves just as much respect as loud confidence, click share so someone else who feels overlooked can find this too. Let's go. It started a week before Christmas. I was sitting at my desk finishing up a project when my phone buzzed with a frantic message from a woman named Dana. She owned a small cafe about 20 minutes from my apartment. I'd actually been there a few times. Nice place. Cozy booths, mismatched mugs, the kind of spot where the barista remembers your name after your second visit. Dana was panicking. Over the span of just 3 days, her cafe had been hit with dozens of one-star reviews. The language was vicious. Worst food I've ever had. Rude staff. Found a hair in my coffee, disgusting. Would give 0 stars if I could. She told me her business had dropped almost overnight. Regulars were asking her if something had changed. New customers were choosing the chain coffee shop down the street instead. She was crying on the phone when she called me. I don't understand, she said. Nothing happened. Nothing changed. These reviews just appeared out of nowhere. I told her to send me everything. Every screenshot, every review link, every username. And then I did what I always do. I started digging. The first thing I noticed was the phrasing. Multiple reviews used the exact same sentence structures. The service was unacceptable and the atmosphere was disappointing. That phrase, almost word for word, showed up in 4 different reviews from 4 different accounts. That's not a coincidence. That's a pattern. I started pulling IP data through the platform's reporting tools and cross-referencing account creation dates. Several of the accounts had been created within hours of each other. Some had reviewed only one other business before Dana's Cafe, and that one other business was always the same. My brother Tyler's contracting company. Those same accounts that trashed Dana's Cafe had posted glowing 5-star reviews for Tyler's business. Best contractor in the area. Tyler Morgan's team is incredible. Honest, reliable, top quality. The writing style matched. The timing matched. The digital fingerprints matched. My stomach dropped. I sat at my desk for a long time after I put it together. I didn't want it to be true. I checked again. I ran the data a 3rd time. It was undeniable. My brother was running a fake review operation, boosting his own business with fabricated praise and, apparently, tearing down competitors or anyone who got in the way with fabricated attacks. I made a choice that I knew would cost me. I called Tyler. I told him what I'd found. I kept my voice calm. I told him exactly what the data showed. Fake accounts. Matching IPs. Coordinated review manipulation. I told him it was illegal. I told him it was unethical. I told him I wouldn't report it if he stopped immediately and took the fake reviews down himself. He laughed. Not a nervous laugh. A real laugh. The kind that tells you the person on the other end doesn't take you seriously at all. It's marketing, Alyssa, he said. Everyone does it. You're overreacting. Tyler, this isn't marketing. This is fraud. People are losing business because of this. Oh, come on. You're just mad because your little computer thing doesn't make real money. I warned him one more time. I told him I had documentation. I told him this could have real legal consequences. He said, "You do whatever you want, Alyssa. Nobody's going to believe you anyway." He hung up. I sat there holding my phone, feeling like the floor had dropped out from under me. I wanted to be wrong. I wanted him to be scared, to fix it, to be the brother I used to believe he was. Instead, he doubled down. And at Christmas dinner, he twisted everything. He got there before me. By the time I walked through the door, carrying a pie I'd spent the morning baking, the room already felt different. People were looking at me strangely. Tyler had told them his version first. Alyssa threatened to report me because she can't stand that I'm successful, he announced to the table, like it was a toast. My mother shook her head at me from across the room. Why are you always starting something, Alyssa? My father didn't even look up from his plate. Extended family stared. Someone, I think it was my aunt, muttered, "This is embarrassing." I tried to explain. I tried to tell them what I'd found, what the data showed, what Tyler was actually doing. But every sentence I started was interrupted. You're exaggerating. You don't understand business. He's your brother. When I refused to apologize for telling the truth, Tyler stood up from his chair and pointed at me. His face was red and his voice filled the room. You're trying to destroy this family. The table went silent. My mother looked at me like I was the problem. Like I'd always been the problem. Then came the knock at the door. Hard. Official. 2 police officers stood on the porch. Someone had filed an anonymous tip about fraudulent online activity tied to Tyler's company. They weren't there to arrest anyone. Not yet. But they had questions. And Tyler's face went white. The weeks after that Christmas were some of the hardest of my life. Tyler didn't go quiet after the police visit. He went loud. Louder than he'd ever been. The first escalation started within days. Tyler called every relative he could reach and told them I had fabricated evidence against him. He said I was jealous of his success. He said I had manufactured fake data on my computer to make him look bad. He said I was unstable. He said I'd always been difficult. He said I was the kind of person who couldn't stand seeing anyone else do well. And they believed him. Every single one of them. My cousin Rachel called me on December 28th. Alyssa, I don't want to get involved, but Tyler says you made the whole thing up. He says you're obsessed with tearing him down. I tried to explain. I told her about the fake accounts, the matching IP addresses, the identical phrasing across dozens of reviews. She was quiet for a moment, and then she said, "I just think you should let it go. It's family." That became the theme. Let it go. Don't make it worse. Stop causing problems. I was excluded from the New Year's gathering. My aunt hosted it, and she told my mother she didn't want any drama. My mother relayed the message to me without apology. Maybe it's better if you sit this one out, Alyssa. I spent New Year's Eve alone in my apartment, eating leftover pie and staring at the ceiling. The second escalation came in January. Fake online accounts started attacking my professional credibility. One-star reviews appeared on my business pages. Alyssa Morgan is a scam artist. She fabricates data for clients. Do not hire this woman. The writing style was familiar. The phrasing, the cadence, the specific word choices. I recognized the patterns immediately because they were the same patterns I'd traced to Tyler's operation weeks earlier. My inbox filled with hostile messages. Some were from strangers who had clearly been pointed in my direction. Others were from accounts with no profile pictures and no history, created solely to harass me. I lost 2 clients that month. One of them called me directly and said, "I saw some concerning reviews about your business. I think we should go in a different direction." I wanted to scream. I wanted to call Tyler and tell him exactly what I thought of him. Instead, I took screenshots. I archived everything. I documented every account, every timestamp, every connection. I did what I do best. I followed the trail. The third escalation was the one that hurt the most. It wasn't public. It was private. It was my parents sitting me down in their living room in late January, their faces tight with worry, but not worry for me. "Alyssa, you need to stop this," my father said. He was sitting in his recliner, the one he'd had for 20 years, and he wouldn't meet my eyes. "Stop what?" I asked. "This whole thing with Tyler. The police, the complaints, whatever you're doing. You need to stop." My mother sat on the couch across from me, her hands folded in her lap. "Tyler supports us, Alyssa. He pays for things. He takes care of things around the house. If something happens to his business, what do you think happens to us?" There it was. The real reason. Tyler gave them money. Tyler fixed their roof. Tyler bought their groceries when things got tight. And I was threatening all of that by telling the truth. "Don't ruin his life over pride," my mother said. That sentence landed like a punch to the chest. Pride. That's what they thought this was about. Not ethics. Not the small business owner who called me crying. Not the dozens of people who were deceived by fake reviews. Not the law. Pride. I drove home that night gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I sat in my car in the parking lot of my apartment complex for 15 minutes before I went inside. I cried. I won't pretend I didn't. I questioned everything. Was I wrong? Was I making this bigger than it needed to be? Was I really just jealous, like they said? But every time the doubt crept in, I thought about Dana. I thought about her cafe. I thought about the sound of her voice when she told me she didn't understand what was happening to her business. And I knew I wasn't wrong. Tyler grew more arrogant as the weeks passed. He bragged to family members that the police visit was nothing and that they didn't even charge me with anything. He told people he'd talked to a lawyer and that there was no case. He posted on social media about his business hitting record numbers. He acted like he was untouchable. I stayed quiet. I didn't respond to the attacks on my business pages. I didn't argue with my family. I didn't post anything online. I just kept collecting proof. Every day, every connection, every trace. Because I knew something Tyler didn't. Silence isn't weakness. Sometimes silence is strategy. What my family didn't know, what Tyler certainly never suspected, was that I hadn't been sitting around feeling sorry for myself during those weeks. I'd been working. Every night after my regular client work was finished, I'd open a separate folder on my laptop. The one labeled simply TM Documentation. Inside that folder was a case file that would have made an investigator's eyes widen. I had archived every single fake account connection. Not just the ones linked to Dana's cafe, but dozens more. Tyler's operation was bigger than I'd initially realized. Those same clusters of fake accounts had targeted at least 7 other local businesses over the past 2 years. Restaurants, plumbers, electricians, a cleaning service. Anyone who competed with Tyler or anyone Tyler's clients wanted pushed down in search rankings. Every IP link was cataloged. I had spreadsheets showing which accounts were created on the same day, from the same internet provider, in the same geographic area. I had screenshots saved in multiple cloud backups. 3 different services, all encrypted, all with timestamps that proved when the evidence was collected. I wasn't careless. I wasn't sloppy. This was what I did for a living, and I did it well. But the evidence went deeper than fake reviews. As I traced the financial side, I uncovered something that made my stomach turn. Tyler had been charging clients inflated prices after fake reviews boosted his company's ratings. Homeowners who found his company through those glowing, fabricated 5-star reviews were paying 15 to 20% more than market rate for basic contracting work. Some of those clients had left real reviews afterward, complaining about overcharging. Those reviews had been buried by another wave of fake 5-star posts. The pattern was systematic. Boost the ratings. Attract customers who trust the ratings. Overcharge them. Then bury any real complaints under another layer of fake praise. I wasn't planning revenge. That's important to understand. I wasn't sitting in my apartment rubbing my hands together and plotting my brother's downfall. I was protecting myself. I was protecting Dana. I was protecting every small business owner and every customer who had been manipulated by a system designed to deceive them. In early February, I quietly consulted someone experienced in consumer fraud cases. I won't say how I found them. I'll just say that when you spend 5 years working in online reputation management, you build connections that most people don't know about. The conversation confirmed what I already suspected. What Tyler was doing wasn't just unethical. It was criminal. The entire time, my family thought I was just good with computers. They pictured me clicking around on social media and writing little blog posts. They had no concept of what digital forensics actually involved. They didn't realize that exposing online manipulation wasn't my hobby. It was my specialty. It was the thing I'd spent years perfecting while they joked about my little laptop business. They had underestimated me my entire life. And this time, that underestimation was going to cost them. In the second week of February, I reached out to someone I hadn't spoken to in over a year. Her name was Catherine Torres. She was a respected local attorney who specialized in business litigation. 2 years earlier, Catherine's law firm had been attacked by a wave of fake 1-star reviews. A disgruntled former client had hired a service to flood their pages with fabricated complaints. Catherine had found me through a referral, and I'd spent 3 weeks dismantling the fake review network, documenting every connection, and helping her legal team build a case that resulted in a settlement and a permanent injunction. When she answered my call, her voice was warm. "Alyssa, it's been a while. What's going on?" I told her everything. I told her about Dana's cafe. I told her about the fake accounts. I told her about Tyler. I told her about the IP connections, the inflated pricing, the systematic targeting of local businesses. And I told her about Christmas dinner. She was quiet for a long time after I finished. "Send me everything," she said. I did. I sent her the entire documentation folder. Every spreadsheet, every screenshot, every timeline, every connection map. She reviewed it over the course of 3 days. When she called me back, her tone had changed. It was professional now. Careful. Measured. "Alyssa, this is consumer fraud. This isn't a gray area. The fake review manipulation alone is a violation of federal trade regulations. But the overcharging, the systematic inflation of prices based on fabricated ratings, that elevates this significantly." She helped me organize everything into a formal report. She told me which agencies to file complaints with. She walked me through the process step by step, making sure every piece of evidence was properly formatted and legally sound. Meanwhile, Tyler continued telling family that the police visit at Christmas was minor. They didn't even follow up, he told my cousin at a family lunch. It was probably just some competitor trying to mess with me. My parents believed it would blow over. My mother called me once in February, not to check on me, but to tell me that Tyler was doing great and that his business was stronger than ever. "I hope you've moved on from all that nonsense," she said. I didn't respond to that. I just said, "I'm glad he's doing well, Mom," and changed the subject. Behind the scenes, official complaints were being filed with the Federal Trade Commission, the State Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division, and the platforms themselves. Catherine's firm submitted the documentation on my behalf, with my name protected where possible. Tyler had no idea. He was so confident that he'd won, so certain that his loud voice had drowned out my quiet evidence, that he planned a big New Year's-style gathering in late February. He called it a fresh start dinner. He invited the whole family. He even told my mother to invite me. "Tell Alyssa she can come if she's ready to act like an adult," he said. I didn't go to the dinner, but I knew it would be one of the last times Tyler felt that comfortable. The meeting was scheduled for a Tuesday morning in March. Catherine's office was on the 4th floor of a downtown building with tall windows that overlooked the city. The conference room smelled like fresh coffee and paper, the kind of clean, professional scent that tells you serious things happen in this room. I arrived early. I sat in a leather chair at the long table and placed my hands flat on the surface to keep them from shaking. Not because I was scared, because I'd waited for this moment for months and I didn't want to waste it by being anything other than steady. Tyler arrived with his own attorney, a man in an expensive suit who looked like he charged $500 an hour to look unimpressed. My parents came too. My mother had insisted. She sat at the far end of the table, clutching her purse like it was a life raft. My father sat beside her, staring at the table, already looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. 2 investigators from the State Consumer Protection Office sat on the opposite side. They had folders in front of them. Thick folders. Catherine sat next to me. She told me that morning, "You don't need to say much. The evidence speaks." Tyler dropped into his chair across from me and leaned back like he owned the room. He looked at me with that same smirk he'd worn his entire life. The one that said he was smarter, better, and more important than everyone around him. "You really did all this," he said, gesturing around the room. "Hired a lawyer, dragged us downtown, got the government involved? Over some internet reviews?" I didn't answer. Catherine opened her laptop and connected it to the screen on the wall. She began her presentation without small talk. She showed the fake account clusters. Names, creation dates, activity logs. She showed the IP matching data, how dozens of accounts traced back to the same small group of internet connections, all located in the same area where Tyler's employees lived and worked. She showed the cross-referencing between the fake 5-star reviews on Tyler's business pages and the fake 1-star reviews on competing businesses. The patterns were identical. The language was identical. The timing was coordinated to the hour. Tyler's attorney leaned forward and whispered something to him. Tyler's smirk faded, but he held on. "She manipulated it," he said, pointing at me. "She's good with computers. She could have faked all of this." The lead investigator, a woman with short gray hair and reading glasses, looked up from her folder. Her voice was calm and flat, the voice of someone who has heard every excuse and believes none of them. "Mr. Morgan, the data presented here was subpoenaed directly from the platforms. It was obtained independently through official channels. Ms. Morgan's personal documentation corroborates it, but the core evidence does not originate from her." Silence filled the room. The kind of silence that has weight. Tyler looked at his attorney. His attorney was reading the subpoena documents. He didn't look up. Catherine continued. She showed the financial records. Invoices from Tyler's company compared to regional averages. She showed that customers who found Tyler through the inflated review ratings paid significantly more than those who came through word of mouth. She showed the consumer complaints. There were 14 of them. 14 separate customers who had filed complaints about overcharging, poor communication, or work that didn't match the quality promised by those glowing reviews. 2 of those customers were in the room. They'd provided written statements. Tyler's hands were on the table now, and they weren't still. His fingers tapped the surface. His jaw clenched. The smirk was gone entirely. "Alyssa," he said. His voice was different now. Smaller. "You didn't have to do this." I looked at him. My brother. The boy I used to build forts with in the backyard. The teenager who taught me to ride a bike, even though I fell 6 times. The man who stood at Christmas dinner and told me to apologize for telling the truth. I didn't, I said. You did. Tyler's attorney requested a recess. When they came back, the attorney spoke on Tyler's behalf. He acknowledged certain irregularities in the company's marketing practices. He used careful words, measured words. But the damage was done. The investigator outlined the consequences. The company faced significant fines for deceptive trade practices. Tyler's contractor's license was flagged for review, with a potential suspension pending the outcome of the full investigation. All fake reviews were to be reported and removed. Tyler would be required to cooperate fully with the ongoing inquiry. My mother was crying quietly at the end of the table. My father hadn't moved. Tyler stared at the wood grain of the conference table like it held the answer to a question he couldn't bring himself to ask. For the first time in my life, I was not the one being told to apologize. I was not the one being asked to shrink. I was not the one being told I was too dramatic, too sensitive, too jealous. The truth had walked into that room on its own 2 feet. And it didn't need to shout. The weeks after the meeting were quiet in a way I hadn't expected. Not peaceful quiet. Heavy quiet. The kind that fills a house after someone says something that can never be taken back. Tyler distanced himself from me completely. He didn't call. He didn't text. When family events happened, he made sure we weren't in the same room. I heard through my cousin Rachel that he'd hired a new marketing company, a legitimate one, and that he was cooperating with the investigation. His business didn't collapse, but it shrank. Some clients left. The ones who stayed did so cautiously. My parents stopped defending him publicly, but they didn't exactly come to my side either. My mother called me once in April. She didn't apologize. She asked if I wanted to come over for Easter. I said yes. We sat at the table and ate ham and talked about the weather. Nobody mentioned Tyler's case. Nobody mentioned Christmas. Nobody mentioned the meeting. It was polite and hollow, and it was the best we could manage. The family dynamics shifted in ways that are hard to describe. There was no dramatic reconciliation. No tearful hug. No moment where everyone admitted I'd been right. Instead, there was just a slow, reluctant adjustment. People stopped making jokes about my little laptop business. My aunt asked me, awkwardly, if I could help her small bakery clean up its online presence. I said yes. My own business grew. Word spread quietly, the way it does in small towns and professional circles. A few of Catherine's colleagues referred clients to me. Dana, the cafe owner, wrote me a letter. An actual handwritten letter. She said her business had recovered. She said she'd told everyone she knew about what I did. I framed that letter and hung it above my desk. I don't celebrate Tyler's downfall. There's nothing to celebrate. He's my brother. I remember the kid he was before the ego and the shortcuts and the lies. I mourn what we lost, which is the possibility that we could have been close, that we could have respected each other, that we could have been honest. But I no longer shrink to keep other people comfortable. I no longer swallow the truth because spitting it out might cause a scene. I no longer apologize for being right just because being right is inconvenient for someone else. Christmas dinner doesn't scare me anymore. If I'm ever told to apologize for telling the truth again, I know exactly what I'll say. Truth doesn't shout. It doesn't need to. It stands. If you've ever been accused of causing drama just because you told the truth, you know how isolating that feels. You know the way people look at you. The way they shake their heads. The way they say, was it really worth all this? Maybe you uncovered something unethical at work. Maybe you called out a family member who everyone else protected. Maybe you refused to stay silent just to keep the peace. And maybe you paid for it. Have you ever exposed wrongdoing and been blamed for it? Have you ever been the one punished for someone else's dishonesty? I want to hear your story. Share it in the comments, because this community understands. We've been there. We know what it costs, and we know what it's worth. Subscribe if you believe integrity is stronger than approval. Subscribe if you know that doing the right thing doesn't always feel good, but it always matters. And if this story reminded you that silence doesn't protect truth, it protects lies, click share to help this reach someone else who needs to hear it right now. Standing up for yourself is one of the toughest things you'll ever do, especially when the people you're standing up against are the ones who are supposed to love you the most. If you've been there, subscribe and become part of this community. We're building something here for people who refuse to be silenced. Let me know this story helped by clicking share. And tell me where you're watching from in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories travel, and every single comment reminds me why I keep telling them.